ये से बोला आपने बोला था।
हाँ ठीक है। So, good morning everyone. So my name is Pushkar Sonar. I take care of marketing at Vector. You must have received some part of communication from my end in last few weeks. So thank you all for joining us today. We know it's a working day, but we have a very interesting and insightful session, full day lined up for all of you. I would like to welcome my colleagues over here. So you'll see all the Vector colleagues around. They will also introduce themselves across, but if we could just have everyone on the stage. I'm just taking this opportunity before we start at 9:30, so that at least you know who all is going to interact with you. So we have Harikishan over here, and Harikishan can introduce the complete team. We have colleagues from across the country coming over here. We have Srinivas, who has come in from Hyderabad. We have Harish, who is there. He's a technical expert as well, based in Bangalore. We have Prasanna as well. We have Avinash. All of them
And
are
Arun.
based in Bangalore. We have Arun. And finally, we also have Harikishan over here. Harikishan is our business development manager, and he would be also interacting with all of us. I think he covers 2 odd sessions today, right?
Yeah.
So you'll be hearing from all of them today. And please feel free to ask any questions that you have during the session as well. We have good amount of time kept for Q&A as well. So please do interact. Anything that you would want to see, you also can see at the end, you have got demo areas set up. So you'll be having the solutions ready over there. So during the breaks, during lunch time, also post the sessions. If you really want to interact on something, see some functionality, we'll be happy to help you with the same. So please feel free to connect with either of us. We are always available over here for you. And thank you once again. Over to you, Harina.
Okay. Hello, good morning. Okay, good morning all. Welcome to Vector Software Test Symposium 2023. So, to give a brief about Vector, Vector is a basically a tools company, but we are into consulting and we help achieve your business problems and mainly supporting safety critical systems. We are supporting automotive solutions for the past 35 years, just 2 months short of 35. and other than that, we support other safety critical industries as well, medical, aerospace, and even industrial solutions also we support. So, coming back to this day, so the theme is how technical debt is affecting software of safety critical systems, and how vector tools can help you achieve your goals for your business problems. So that is the theme, and the flow is going to the initial session. This is my session, first session. It is going to be full of problems. So I am going to scare you down with a couple of problems, and the next upcoming sessions will have the solutions for this problem from tools perspective, like how VectorCast solves certain business problem, and how PCLint Plus solves certain business problems, and how VectorCast QA is used, and lastly score. So this is the flow of this session, and we can start the session. Yeah. Okay. So as you see, the title is Technical Debt and Challenges in Safety Critical Systems. So technical debt, to start a story, there is this person called Ward Cunningham. He is credited to coining this term called technical debt. So it happens to be like Ward Cunningham, way back in 1992, he was a software engineer and he was tasked to develop YCash portfolio management system. And his bosses being completely in financial portfolio, they asked him a question like, how come software needs maintenance? It is not in hardware. It is not a car where you run for 10,000 kilometers and you have to go to service station or nothing like that. How come I need to do the maintenance? Why is it? Then he thought about, like, he came up with metaphor. Like all metaphors, technical debt is coined in such a way that to model against our financial debt. How financial debt you take to solve certain problems, so you will pay back with interest to the bankers. So just that way, like car loan, personal loan, and home loan, just like that, technical debt is modeled in that fashion. That is the background of the story. Let's start with the session. Okay, this is the agenda of this session. Okay, so let's start with the definition. So technical debt is a term basically used for anything that we cut corners to achieve software delivery milestones. So just to get to the milestone, like we have a delivery date. So we often hear this term saying like, if we don't do this release, there may not be next release. So to achieve this kind of things, we normally skip some things, or software development team eating into the budget of testing team. So certain test cases or non-critical components are tested in next releases. So these kind of things all fall into technical debt only. So like any other debt, you have to again repay it with interest. So the interest would be the bloating of software, and software entropy will come into place, and the software becomes so huge and so unmaintainable. At certain point, you have to drop the variant or drop the program and start again one more time. So instead of reusability. So in short, anything you are worrying about runtime capabilities and you are not worrying about design time qualities, that is when technical debt enters. Okay, so just this definition is for you. Technical debt is delayed technical work in pursuit of milestones. Okay, so I am going to touch upon Deming's theory. Deming's theory, Edward Deming came up with this theory, and he is credited to bringing around Toyota story. So Edward Deming came up with this theory saying that any organization which concentrates on reducing costs will end up reducing quality, and in turn that escalates to increase in cost in long run. So better to improve the quality, which as a positive side effects will be a reduction in cost. That is what Edward Deming's theory. So, and the guy who I am talking about, Ward Cunningham, is the one in photo. So this is the classification of technical debt based on execution and intention. Like this is the initial classification that has been done way back in 90s. So the classification is, you can see Mark Fowler's quadrant, which defines technical debt, whether it is based on the intention and then the context later. Intention is like whether it is done deliberately or it is done without unknowingly. And again, the next phase is like recklessness or prudent. Recklessness is like, okay, we'll see it later. That is recklessness. Prudent is like, I'll do the test next sprint of this component. So that is like, you know which test you have to do. So that is like prudent, you know what to do. And just to go through these terms, intentional is like, you know what you are doing, you are just taking some time, like this certain component is not important in this software release, so you are not going to test that, or you are not going to implement that. You will write down, you will document that in either your Jira tasks or your rational. So rational tools you will use, and you will document that as a CR or change request later to be implemented. That is intentional. Unintentional is normally like when a entry level programmer has done a bad code or something like that, is unintentional. And short term is the one which I said next sprint will do that. So that kind of thing is short term. Long term is when you plan for like there is no variant coming up for the next 5 years, so we need not worry about reusability. So that is long term. And focused is unfocused is again like, you want to do this, you want to limit this testing for the next release or something like that. And environmental debt, this is something you can't plan for. Say you have adopted, like you have your organization has acquired some organization, and they have so much technical debt or so much bad code, and that has come to your organization, and your team is tasked to update certain change requests. So when you hit that updation phase, and you check the code is so bad that when you fix certain part, certain other parts fail. So you end up doing, the plan might be for say 2 weeks to fix that code, but you end up doing like 6 months or 7 months. So that kind of thing is environmental debt that you can't plan for. So this is the latest classification. Though the technical debt term has been there for a while, it has been from 90s, but recently it has picked up so much traction and so much research material is available, and so many organizations and universities are into this research. And one of the prominent research that affects our safety critical software is related to one Sweden university, Chalmers University, and they have come up with this classification based on nature and which phase of software development this technical debt comes up. So due to, as this is big research topic, I don't want to touch upon each and every topic. I will just touch upon like important parts of this. Important parts of this is architectural debt. Architectural debt is the main reason why anything like this comes into play. So see, the structure itself is bad. The programmer, however good they might be, they might end up putting multiple dependencies, and each failure will result in multiple other failures. So that is one of the thing. So architecture debt is very important for any organization to plan for. And next thing is build debt. Build debt is in your Makefile system, or any whoever is still using Makefiles. So that Makefile, sometimes we end up writing multiple dependencies that are not needed. So the building time will increase drastically. So that is unwanted. In certain scenarios where distributed systems are there and automatically some building and some testing has to happen, this is very important. In standalone cases where it is a small team, and this may not affect them much. And coming to code debt, this is everywhere, source code debt. To one of the things that you can do, one of the indicators for the source code debt is like any static analysis tools, if you are using, so many warnings all coming up on your code, and unfixed errors and warnings, all those things. Errors we fix it, because without that we can't build the code, but warnings we ignore it most of the times. So that end up being over a period of time, that end up being a bad code and unmaintainable code. So that is the code debt. And design debt is more about like inheritance, some dependencies we have created, and the interface is pretty bad, where buggy interface, all these things comes under design debt. Test debt is coverage not complete, unexecuted test cases, and there are manual tests sometimes in iterations. This happens in display testing. Sometimes engineers get bored and they just say this has been tested as it is manual. So they just write it down as tested, but you see that this is some issue might come up in later. This is all test debt. Okay, now we have talked about technical debt quite a while, and we need to know how it affects. I guess most of them here are concerned about safety critical software. So you worried about like following some standards. So I just took out IEC 61508, which is like a base standard for safety critical software. So based on that only ISO standard and ISO 26262, and again EN 50128 for railways, all these things are based on. So I took the flow of safety critical software here. I'll just touch on how the flow is. It will be very crisp. The flow is, normally we get a customer requirement, or we try to develop certain part, ECU in automotive, LRU, or maybe CCU in railways. So all these controllers or something, we try to build some certain unit, and that has some requirements from customer that we want to other. Then comes risk and hazard analysis. There we decide on what safety requirements will flow through, like what is the safety element that to be implemented, that we decide upon. and that safety requirements are flowed down. So this high level requirements are broken down into lower level requirements. Some end up for hardware, some end up for safety cases, and some end up for performance requirement, some for software implementation. So this is the flow how it goes. And for this, verification and validation is one of the important thing. And again, like implementation also, there is maintenance, even commissioning is also very important thing. Right, the end of thing, you have to, there will be multiple distributed systems in places like in aerospace. Teams will be distributed across continents and across time zones. Even with railways, there will be multiple vendors, even automotive. So all these things have to be commissioned, and the maintenance also we have to bear. So this is the workflow of safety critical development. It can be mission critical systems like NASA's space thing, or again business critical solution, like it could be like consumer electronics, where you are trying to do something like, if any issue comes that is for huge loss of value, and they would not buy that product again. And other safety critical systems are automotive, aerospace, medical. So how technical debt is important in safety critical scenario? So based on the research, these are the 3 critical questions that is to be asked in any organization to talk about technical debt. Most of the times what happens is, software quality is talked about very much, verification and validation is given very much importance in organization, but technical debt is one such topic which is just emerging, and we need to give special attention to this topic. So based on the research, these are the 3 critical questions that were posed, and one is, any technical debt needs to be refactored. Refactoring is a term used for implementing, like you are reducing your debt. Just like financial debt, how you pay off your EMIs, or how you pay off certain principal. So just like that, technical debt refactoring is the term used for repayment of that debt. So what happens is, instead of changing the entire source code behavior, we will do small changes to do the design level, and we are worrying about qualitative behaviorals instead of runtime behaviors. So runtime behavior should stay same, and qualitative behavior should change. So that is what refactoring is all about. So the first critical question is whether this technical debt refactoring is costlier in safety critical software. If it is costly, because safety critical is again recertification, if any changes we do, we have to go through recertification and requalification. So if it is costly, we just ignore it, and we try to ultimately we need it certified, and we need it to be in market, it need to be safe. So we implement the safety thing, but we don't worry about future something is going to come. Say a sprint is planned for 2 weeks, but the tasks of that sprint goes on to next sprint and next sprint and next sprint. So when we actually calculate the estimate versus the plan versus the actual, it will be a huge difference. When you dig down why this is happening, the reason would be the dependencies, multiple dependencies. When you edit certain part of code, something unrelated is failing. When you go and try to update that, you need to again test that part of the code which was not in the planning at all. So this kind of thing can make, so all these parts have to be recertified again. So this can make TD refactoring a costly affair in safety critical system. So we have to ask this question. And the second question is whether our there is this this idea in almost all the safety critical systems that we are implementing as per the standard. Say in aerospace, you ask an aerospace guy, he says like, we are following DIVO 178C, so we will not have any issue. Our software is perfect. But even there is an issue of planning. Again, whatever is planned, that is not being achieved. So that problem exists there as well, and the same thing with other industries as well. So this question, this thing, like this idea that safety critical regulations is going to limit the technical debt is not valid anymore. So this second question is also honestly has to be discussed upon. And sometimes if the processes, if in the organization or in the team can be good, so but what happens is there is a tailoring mechanism. Even though the central process is very good, each team, due to milestone, they'll do the tailoring, and they take a deviation. There is no track of all the deviations that is taken for each project in an organization. So you end up becoming multiple organizations in a single organizations, each having their own process. So that is something that need to be worked upon. So let's move to the next thing. So this is Moore's curve. It talks about, like, at after certain point, if you try to add more people in the team to solve the, like, it is the same thing, like there is this joke, right? We say, if you have 9 people, can the pregnancy be limited to 1 month each, or something like that. So this is the Moore's curve is like that. If you see after that point, after the point that is given here, so after that point, that in that curve, every person you add in the team is going to increase the number of days needed to complete the milestone than decrease. So this is something we need to work upon. And why can't we talked about technical debt a lot, so why can't we limit it? Like, why can't we prevent it altogether? So we bring in best process, and why can't we just limit it altogether? For that, these 4 are the reason. One is ambiguity and requirements. Say, take railways example. Bid is sent bid is sent, and bid has to be won, and then only the implementation and all will follow through. But the bid needs to align with the requirements. Requirements are given by some government organization or some organization that only gives the requirements vaguely. So based on that, each competitor works on. So everyone needs to first win the bid, then only they can implement. So in the race to win the bid, we will say yes to all. That can happen. And the implementers or the safety team, when they work upon the requirements are so ambiguous that they can't implement completely, and they'll push on to achieve the deadline. So this is one possibility. And the other possibility is distributed systems, which are in multiple countries, and multiple cultural things comes in, multiple time zones, and the collaboration is a problem sometimes. So that also can lead to ambiguity of requirements, and so that can result in missing some of the things that needs to be done. And diversity of projects is multiple projects at multiple different degree of criticality and different degree of complexity. So when one project learnings, or if a deviation is taken from standard template of an organization, that the learnings of this project may not be completely applicable to the other project where another deviation is taken. So that is also one of the issue. And inadequate knowledge management. So this is something where every organization faces. There might be couple of experts who are so much who have spent so many years in the organization and learned the product so much, and the dependency on them is so much that they have to come and solve so many issues. That is the and moreover, in safety critical systems, most of the things will be proprietary units, and those things might not be available in Google or website for you to learn. So that is one more issue. And resource constraint. There can be a very expensive hardware that needs to be used for testing. So teams has to work around the clock or take shifts to complete that task. So that is also one of the issue that that limits us to prevent the technical debt altogether. So it's fine. Technical debt is a problem, and we can't eliminate it completely. Then what is the solution? So solution is refactoring. So refactoring is like, again, as we discussed, refactoring is a term used for addressing your issues by small and incremental steps without changing the code behavior, what it is. So this is one scenario which is considered, like this is a use case that is considered. Say a company A is implementing telematics for variant Y based on their already existing variant X. So the reuse claimed during the planned phase of the components of X is 100%. So they are very confident that the X variants, all the software components can be used completely. So we are not going to worry about changes in the X variant software components. So 100% reuse was planned in the planning phase. So the budget was allocated in such a way for man hours, or say a number of days, or anything, and certain number of engineers were allocated, and the X variant software is qualified and certified. So anyone, if it is willing to answer, do you think it is possible to achieve this thing, 100% reusability, based on your experience? Anyone can say yes confidently? The 100% reusability is a possibility if in your work experience. I remember one project which there is no reusability. Only even though 100% was claimed, it was only 5% that was reused. So what is the challenge in this scenario? This is the scenario very common in organizations nowadays. So there is a legacy code and we try to use it, and we want to build up on top of that, but we end up spending more time than developing from scratch. So what is the challenge? So these are the 4 challenges that are listed. One is unstable interface. There is any software will have multiple components, and software or hardware, multiple interfaces to all the components, and there can be a buggy interface. If you see to check what is the history of that X variant project, if anyone had worked upon the history of all the Git tasks and checked what is the past thing, how much is change, how many changes has been done on each interface, there might be 1 or 2 interfaces, or maybe very handful of interfaces where multiple iterations of changes had been done. So that is something called unstable interface. Any additions or updations to that is going to be even tough to regulate and even tough to work upon. So modularity violation. So this is say there is a change request has come, and a certain part of code has been updated, and totally unrelated module that will get affected. This happens more than a couple of times. So this is something called implicit modularity conversion. So this is a problem that exists in if the code is not is very proper, or if there is a certain technical debt in the code. And improper inheritance is one more challenge in this kind of reusability, where there is a say like some subclass is some parent class is dependent on subclass, or say some client is dependent, some client which is using inheritance is dependent on both the parent and subclass. So this kind of improper inheritance is also one of the challenge to have 100% reuse or anything. And cyclic dependency. So this is this is also one more thing which you face. So these are all fine. What are your recommendations for bettering the software? So everything is small and incremental step. We can't change the complete software in day one and become the best of it. It is going to be in iterative cycles which we have to do it. So what are the recommendations from our side is, like, baselining the software is one of the best thing you can do. A software can be baseline, and you can have a set of test cases which can be made completely automatic, and that baseline software, after every change, you can have this overnight builds or automate in say CI/CD pipeline, and then as soon as the change happens, the certain automated tests will execute overnight without any engineer's intervention, and you can get which part of the code is affected, and all these things can happen. So baselining is a very good thing that we see working in some of our customers. So this is one of the recommendations which we would give from our side. And this is the second recommendation is based on the architecture. This one worked out in one of the projects which I worked in. So this is partitioning. Certain RTOS like support partitioning, and you can even partition hardware wise as well. You can implement the variant bivariant extra features in separate processor, piggybacking it, so load sharing can happen. So that also is possible. So this partitioning also limits your chance of certifying, say telematics unit, where it is using. If it is the future is like you want to have it in autonomous driving, and you want to, then the telematics safety criticality ASIL level goes way high up. So then the new features has to be certified according to that. So this is one of the recommendations which we would give. And next thing is, and metrics is very important for tracking technical debt. So any metrics that you define and track is very useful. So that will give you where you are standing currently and your future picture. And in future you can check whether your implementation activities has been fruitful or not. So that is one thing which you can do iteratively. So metrics are important. We will talk about this thing, metrics, little bit more. So next thing is, this is even bigger. That is just for a demonstration how the annual budget looks, and then what actually happens in the down. Like we plan for something, and we end up spending more time on unplanned things. That happens. So considering TD refactoring, again it is like small incremental steps how we have to manage. Any debt has to be serviced. So this technical debt management is a process how intuitively we decide upon certain decision making to solve that issue, and so that it will not feature in again and again. It is an improvement for the engineers as well. So we learn along the way. Okay. So these are the consequences and effects of regulations when planning for TD refactoring. So consequences are often talked about, like in safety critical, the documentation is very important because evidence has to be provided to the qualifier, whoever comes, external authority or internal auditors. All these evidences are very important. So any changes, we have to change the documentation. So that is a consequence, and additional documentation is painful. That is one thing. And additional simulation, additional executions, and additional tests. Risk assessment has to be changed. Your risk metrics has to be aligned to that. So test scope changes. So these are the consequences. Effects of this are way higher. in the cost benefit analysis, when you do for technical debt refactoring, you have to consider the effects as well in man-hours that help you address the issues. So the effects are like in future, when the maintenance cycle will be very easy, and maintenance will be very smoothful, and the planning, your planning versus actual will not be having much variance. Okay, so this is what the flow for flow as per the research that I was talking about. Sorry. So any technical debt refactoring cost benefit analysis is normally done, and refactoring decision making is done normally in management meeting. And most of the times, if the cost side is the focus in this kind of discussions, so that will be ignored most of the times, or some workarounds will be suggested. So workarounds are most of the times sorry, will end up being hurting more than saving at that present time. Okay, so let's talk about the best practices that we have from our side. So the main best practice that we suggest is create an awareness to all the stakeholders in organization. Software quality has a team, and that is going to the highest levels in any organization. Just like that, technical debt has also be talked about, and create an awareness about that, and stakeholders has to be decided upon, and all the deviations that are present in any say project 1, project 2, project 3, 2 projects have taken deviation from standard practices of the organization, that has to be documented in a central repository where this thing can be tracked, and after the project a discussion can happen, and it can be refactoring can be happening. So that is one best practice. So if initially we can talk about it, then we can solve the problem. So that is the first best practice. And the second thing is embrace the agile software development practices. Like iteratively small steps. Agile demands us to have more automation and have iteratively solve the issues, and it demands the software team to have multiple release cycles. So that demands us to automate our manual process. So embracing the agile software development process is one of the best practice suggestion. And linking the, if you see in this first one, the second thing is to-dos. You might have seen to-dos in your code, hashtag to-dos. Like we'll put the comment, and we'll write it like we'll solve it next sprint. So if you see here, there is written like commented, consider generating a constructor. That doesn't make sense unless you go into that code and dwell upon. Just by seeing that to-do, or if you extract that to-do using some Python automation or anything, that doesn't make sense at all. So you will not be able to get anything from that to-do. So the second thing is a better one. So refactor to the module name, and refactor the Jira task, or whatever the mechanism you use. So that is the best thing you can, that is the best practice recommendation from us. So the next thing is encourage the engineers to talk about the issues that is present, and instead of penalizing them, it has to be encouraged, so that they'll come up in the first place, so that can be addressed. Instead of when fire catches, calling the fire engine, better to be safe and have all the amenities in the place. So perform cost benefit analysis in the view of having a better software than to postpone an activity. That is one more best practice. And follow the metrics, adopt any metrics that is suitable for your needs. If you need any help regarding your use case for consultation, we are happy to help. Which metrics would help you better, that we are more than happy to help. And there are many metrics like scale, code coverage, and cyclometric complexity, all these things. And so baselining again, last but not least, baselining your software with automated tests, that will help you. So that is what this session is all about. And the next sessions that follow will have, this is more, I know I have bombarded with technical data a lot, and next sessions will have a demo and actual use cases, like how you can solve these problems. We have talked about technical debt and refactoring, and how even safety critical software has a technical debt problem. So next session is about how Jenkins and CI/CD continuous integration. So you have a Jenkins demo as well after that. And the session following that is PCLint Plus. This helps you with code violations and all these things. That has the demo as well. And the other session following PCLint Plus is Vectorcast with Test Insights, where you can work in collaborative way, and how baseline testing you can do. That is using change-based testing. That is the session later. Lastly, and the session following that is Vectorcast QA. If you have your own test environment, that can be integrated with Vectorcast and can be automated. That is the session. And the last session is Score. It is an analytics tool. That's my time. Any questions? Yes. No, this is a software problem mostly. So the tools are software tools. So the equipment is the software tools.
Software tools.
Yeah.
Any examples of typical metrics one would define for tracking this technical debt?
Okay. That depends on what kind of projects you are working on and what are the issues that you face. Normally, metrics are defined to address your issue that is faced in your organization. There are multiple metrics. One of the effective metrics is say man hours. How many man hours is needed to fix this code? And code violations, static analysis code violations. That is one good metrics. And the scale is also one of the good metrics. Software quality in life cycle. That is one more good metrics. And there are multiple metrics. So based on your use case, what is a good metrics? So you should be facing with some problem, right? In multiple iterations, and over a period of time, your software should be facing some problems, whether it is architecture. Based on that, we can define your metrics. Code coverage is one metric, and cyclometric complexity is one metric, and so all these things are there.
What I'm struggling to understand is like, see, some of this, what are you told about code coverage or some of this violations and all, we might need to fix it at one point of the time, and you are talking about refactoring, right? Maybe at that point of time, some of them might have been, and we need to mandatorily close them for the standard compliance for whatever, right? I'm more thinking about the technical debt, what the classifications you gave on various fronts, and how to track them with some metrics. Because what are the tools you talked about, PCLint and Vectorcast, those are very standard tools for the standard compliance. What are the standards we follow for what are the target markets, those are, right? Where I'm struggling is like maybe the to-dos, right? Maybe that is one thing metric, but that's yeah, maybe very rudimentary one to start with.
You are talking about this classification?
Yeah, if you keep this in the background, what are the different metrics one can define to really track what is the architectural debt or say code debt or various types of debt, right?
This each one is a separate stream again. So that's why I have put a note saying each one is a separate stream of topic which takes a separate session for each one. That's why just to limit the time, I have touched upon only on important things and given certain indicators over there. If you see for architectural debt, it is a very vague thing. Issues in software architecture is because I couldn't quantify it with certain aspects because for generic generalization, certain issues might be applicable for you and certain might not be. That's why I mentioned just issues in software architecture. And modularity is one thing that I gave example.
Now, how to quantize this? See, I understand like architecture debt might be the biggest among all. I think you
Yes,
also
yes.
emphasized that. Let's talk in specifics, right? I'm still struggling how, yeah, maybe I know like it's not modular, but how do I quantize it or quantify it for me to come up with a metric and also to track it further, right?
Okay.
Uh,
So, say you have certain class, or say you have certain functions and certain file, and you have your Git history, right, which is being modified, and you can track it along with the Jira for sprint and the task as well. So when you connect both things, for each updation and each testing cycle, which are the very frequently updated one? That is one thing to point, one of the metrics you can follow. If you ask, how can I track this in current scenario, you have to use multiple tools. Like no one fit solution for all the things. Or if you have any specific example, we can discuss more later also.
Okay.
If you have any specific example like this issue I faced, while fixing this part of code I had this issue. If you have anything specific example, we can discuss more.
Okay.
I know this is too much generalized and you wanted specifics. I get that. And if there is any specific example you have, we can discuss it more. Yeah. Any more questions? Yes. That is just to track bugs and all. It is not like I endorsed Jira or anything. I was saying Jira or any rational tool or anything. IBM also has tools. So anything that any bug tracking tool is what I was talking about. Anything else? Please feel free to ask any questions even later also. We are available here. So if you need any personalized discussion also, I'll be sitting in the back after these sessions. You can reach out. Even after the session today also, if you have anything, you can reach out to us. We are more than happy to help you. Yeah, that's my cue. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Okay, right. Uh, After the session on technical debt, we would be, as we have explained before, we will be moving slowly towards the possible solutions that we have discussed as challenges in the previous session. So one of the challenges that we face in embedded world especially is that how to adapt enterprise software development and testing paradigm into embedded systems, embedded software. So that is the topic of discussion of this particular presentation. So before I move further, I will be discussing about what is the difference between the embedded software development and testing and the enterprise software development, what is the key differences between that, and then I'll be discussing about challenges of adapting to agile. Before that, we will be discussing about why agile, and then we will be discussing the next progression is the continuous integration. We will be discussing what is continuous integration and what are the challenges we will be facing when we try to migrate from the traditional software development life cycle, the famous V model, into the agile and adapting into the CI/CD based build systems. And finally, we will be discussing how these pieces fall in place and how Vectorcast can help you to expedite the process of migration from your traditional software development into the agile model, what we have to offer from Vector. So that is the agenda for this particular presentation. So before we move any further, trying to understand how we can migrate our software development to CI/CD, we have to understand what is the difference between the software development when it comes to enterprise software development. What is the difference? So the key difference is that enterprise software development and embedded software development is that in the enterprise software you have code that is crunching numbers. Basically, you have lot of data that you have to process at a much faster rate. So that is one example of an enterprise. Like you can take any banking software, it could be one example. Whereas when you are in an embedded software development, we are focused on doing some dedicated task, or it could be a subtask of a bigger system. And we have to do it redundantly. Continuously we have to do it. So that is a key difference between enterprise software development and the embedded software development. Second thing is the examples you can take is the bank software you can take, or like I have put some examples here, CRM and ECM. So these are some of the examples you can take for enterprise software development. Whereas for embedded systems, it could be a safety critical or a mission critical software. It could be your airbag software. It could be your software that puts rocket into space. Okay, something that is mission critical or safety critical will fall under embedded software development. And the main characteristics of enterprise software is that we are not constrained. There are no memory constraints as such. These softwares are designed to be run on servers, okay, or on a centralized system. Whereas in embedded software, we are more focused on the maintainability, fail safety, okay, and also reliability. So we are more focused on these parameters when it comes to embedded development. And enterprise development, they are always eager to embrace the newer technologies so that they can give a better quality. This is motivation. Whereas in embedded software development, we are more focused on the reliability. We are also want to give cost-effective solutions to our customers. This is more focus in embedded software development. And why is that we want to move from the enterprise software to the embedded software development is that if you see 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the hardwares were not this powerful. Embedded hardwares were not this powerful, and we didn't have this much big memory spaces in the embedded targets. But if you see, best example is our smartphone. We are trying to cram in as much features as possible. Even our cars have become smart now. So, and also the underlying hardware has become very powerful. So there, even now it is the time for even for the embedded software to move into the enterprise software development paradigm. So that the line is becoming thinner and thinner when it comes to enterprise software development or embedded software development. So that is the main motivation to take up this topic. Okay, adoption of agile practices. Many companies right now are adopting to the agile software development paradigm. Now, why agile? So, if you see many years ago, like 20, 30 years ago, if you want to develop any software, you had some time, like 3 years or 4 years. You had requirements, and most of the times these requirements were stable, and after 5 years we had a product. Now, right now we have competing products, and the requirements may change, the features may change even when the software is under development based on the market requirements. So, we should be quickly able to change our software development, and we have to make sure that we have quicker time to market, because there is a danger that by the time our product gets released, the software gets released, it may be already obsolete. So that is the reason why many of the companies are moving towards agile software development and testing. Now we try to categorize different kinds of levels when it comes to agile. The team level, at the team level, the more focus is on deliverables. So you have a software component, and you have to deliver it. So we call it in this agile development, we call it as sprints. You have shorter sprints. You try to implement certain features, and you make sure that it is working as expected. So this is called. They are more focused at the team level. They are more focused on delivering the they are more focused on fixing some bug at the team level. At the program level, we have what we call as agile release trains, and they are more focused on software component release. And value stream level is something which is optional, where they will be trying to use the same agile technology to have a common algorithms across multiple software developments. And portfolio level basically manages multiple software releases. So this is the hierarchy. So that is the lowest level, team level is the lowest level, and the highest level is the portfolio level, and these are optional. The value stream level and the portfolio level are the optional. I'm sorry. Okay, what are the other trends in the software development? Is that adoption of DBMS. As you know, even in the embedded targets right now, we have to process a lot of data. So even in the embedded systems also, we are adapting the DBMS based software development. And prognostics, again, this is a new trend where we want to have predictive diagnostics using the languages like using the concepts like machine learning. And we are also seeing that use of AI, artificial intelligence as part of embedded software development. Next thing is that now even embedded software products also have web services. This is other trend. So for example, best example is Internet of Things, IoTs. They use the web services. So these are some of the other trends that are driving. So okay, we spoke about current trends, and next thing is challenges. Obviously, so if we want to really move towards agile software development, what are the different challenges? Of course, right now we all have this problem. We have multinational software development teams. So we have different teams. They are sitting in different nations, and they are working. So that is one challenge. Of course, the logical progression is time zone, and also the other cultural things like language and KT. This is again a very big problem when in the software development. How do we transfer the work that we have done to our counterparts effectively, so that they understand what we are talking about? So this is another challenge here. And then different teams working on different requirements. And sometimes what happens is that they miss the big picture. So why we are working all together, we are working on this particular project. Different teams have their own subset of requirements they are working on, and because of that, there will be integration problems. So when you bring all these different components, software components together, then when you try to integrate these components, then what we call in, loosely it's called as integration hell. So most of the time is wasted there when you try to integrate. So that is one of the challenges. And of course, we have security and concurrency. These are the other challenges that we may face. Next thing is that, I want to implement agile software development and testing. So what are the different ways I can do that? One of the ways is we bring the development, testing, and the IT together. Okay, so this is the we get the best of all the three domains. So that's what is called as a DevOps. In the DevOps, you have your development engineers and your testing engineers and the IT together. So DevOps toolchain goal is that you have the human collaboration, and as we have discussed before in Agile, we should have the continuous delivery. So you implement subset of requirements and you go for the delivery and the reliability. So if you make any changes to your software, you should be confident that the software change did not impact ultimately your software product quality. So these are the founding stones for the DevOps. So this is one way of implementing the Agile. And what is continuous integration? Continuous integration is nothing but, loosely translated, you have a main trunk where you have to upload your software, and you will be implementing the some subset of your requirement, and you will be committing to, when I say committing, you are actually copying this logic onto the main trunk. So that's what is the continuous integration, loosely translated. Next thing is, okay, now I understand that I have to implement Agile. We started with enterprise software, and then we understood that embedded software is also moving in that direction. I understand that I have Agile, I have to adapt Agile, and then we spoke about what one of the two things we have discussed about DevOps, and from the DevOps we have now discussed about CI. Now, what are the challenges that we may face when we try to adapt this particular software development and testing paradigm? So one thing is, we have discussed previously that we have in Agile software development, we are more committed to developing a subset of your requirements, and then you are committing to the main trunk. So this could be one challenge. You need to have a mechanism where you have the central server, and then you have your teams working, and finally they are committing the software to the main trunk. So you have to figure out how this can be implemented. This could be one of the challenge when you move towards the CI. And other things is that there could be change in requirements. We spoke about that, like in Agile, chances are that after we venture into software development, there could be changes in your requirement, and there could be bug fixes, like the bug, it was not a bug before, but once we change our requirements, maybe we had to modify our software. So these could be some of the challenges that we have to handle at a very faster rate when we move towards Agile software development and testing. So how do we solve that? One of the things for committing your software, there are software control management, version control management applications that are available. Again, these are only some of the examples. You might be using different version control tools where you have a central server and you can make a local copy of your software. You can make the changes in your software, okay, and you can commit back the software, or you have made some changes and you commit the software and you understood that it broke something else, you can revert back the changes. So one of the solutions for continuous integration is using some kind of a version control tool. Okay, it could be anything. It could be any version control tool which supports branching, committing, pulling, and undoing the changes. This could be one solution. Second thing is that you have a workflow for continuous integration where you have a CI server. You can see there is a CI server here, and there are developers who are working. So they are pulling the software from this integration server. They are making the changes, okay, and they are committing the software into some source code, like a version control tool. They are continuously committing, and this version control tool has bidirectional communication with this continuous integration server. Continuous integration server has an automation where it will be doing the steps that it is being asked for. For example, in this case, it will build the software and it will test the software, and if it breaks something, if the testing breaks something, there will be a mechanism. It could be like sending a mails to the people who have committed the software or revert backing to the older version of the software, whatever. We instruct the continuous integration server. So this is the continuous integration workflow, a very basic workflow. It could be more complicated where you can have multiple continuous integration servers running, but this is the bare minimum basic example where you have the continuous integration server and the source code management working hand in hand. So far, I believe so far so good. Okay, and for the CI continuous integration also, there are multiple solutions. You have the Docker container is one of the example we took, where you can have the complete continuous integration setup as a lightweight virtual machine, and you can have multiple virtual machines running the build and testing continuously. So this can run in parallel, and this will even speed up your software development and testing. Okay, so you can have Dockers is one of the solutions, or you can have one single server as well, like we discussed in the previous slide. And these Dockers will have something called as Docker file, which will have the instructions like it's a simple file, human readable file, which will give you the steps for creating what kind of environment you want to have on that particular Docker. Next thing, okay, these are all some of the ways we can quickly move to the agile, but there still remains some challenges. What are the challenges are like knowledge limitations. We need to have to upgrade our knowledge in order to move towards the agile software testing. Maybe it takes time, maybe we don't have time. So timing constraints could be one of the things. Maybe we have already in the fag end of that project, and maybe adapting to the agile development could be a challenge because we don't have time. Cost could be another constraint. Maybe it is more costly to move. And yes, agile frameworks can become very complex moving with time. Definitely there is a leverage, there is a return over investment if you move towards agile, but the systems may tend to become complex over time. So to sum it all up, the previous slides about DevOps and CI/CD. So we have benefits as well as we have some challenges. One of the key benefits is that you can very easily work in the cross-functional teams because you have a procedure defined how to work on any software. So you have a procedure. So it increases, it actually, the communication gaps are much reduced when that is one of the benefits. Second thing is that there you can leverage on your work done. Okay, so this will impact in lesser time to market, and you will have the rapid feedback. The moment you commit your software to any software server, tests may get executed, and you may then and there know that what changes you made. So we remember what changes we made today, but we may not remember what changes we made into the software maybe 6 months down the line. So it becomes easy for you to fix the problem. Next thing is that it is automated, so less manual work is done, so it is easily maintainable. So if it is more manual, it is more prone for errors. So the more the automation, it is easily maintainable. Second thing is that we have a streamlined development process. Everybody has to follow that. Now, what are the challenges? It is a cultural change. So it is a mindset change. We have to deal with that, and maybe we need to upskill and have new people who can help us move in that direction. Second thing is that tools, cost of the tools, and scalability is another challenge. Maybe in some cases it could be a challenge. Scalability could be a challenge, and you have to comply to some kind of a standard there. So these are some of the challenges when we move towards the DevOps adoption. Okay, so we spoke at length about CI/CD and Agile in the previous slides. So what we have to offer from the vector. So in the vector, we have the CI/CD licensing model. So these are the licenses that can be executed from the command line. Okay, they don't have the GUI support, and you can parallelize your testing. So this is one of the solutions we have. And also the VectorCast has a CBT technology, change-based testing technology, which we will be explaining at length in the coming sessions, where only the test cases that get impacted by the source code change will be re-executed, thus saving your time. So if you have thousands of test cases, you made some software change, and you are not sure whether that software change has not impacted your quality of your software, then we have a CBT technology. More on that in the next sessions. So that is one thing. And then we have VectorCast has an integration capability. It can integrate with multiple tools like be it JAMA, or if you don't use any requirement-based tools, we also provide integration with Excel also. CSV also integration is available in VectorCast. And we are happy that all our VectorCast features are having command line capability. So VectorCast is 100% automatable. So you have very good command line interface with VectorCast. So these are some of the salient features that would help you move towards the agile development and testing. More importantly, on the testing aspect, we have to offer. So we saw the same slide, just 3 slides. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Okay, we have integrations with JAMA, Polarian, CSV, Doors next generation. Yes, this is not a limited list. Okay. Maybe if you have a special requirement tool that I've not spoken about, maybe we can take that and one-on-one discussion, and we can also support you. If you have any requirement tool that I have not spoken about, we can also support you on that.
Now, why I ask this question is, in our organization they use a specific requirement management tool. So will it be possible for Vector?
No, at Vector we are working, our orientation is always from the customers. We don't really tell that to use any particular requirement tool. So we try to adapt to your requirements, whatever you provide.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Understood.
right. Okay, coming back. So if you remember 3 slides before, we saw the same workflow. So in the workflow, what is the change is that after the building, we can automate the testing, and Vectorcast will give you, the continuous integration system will trigger Vectorcast. Vectorcast can in turn run your test cases, and it can actually check in all the results, not all the results, the coverage and the testing pass-fail results back to your continuous integration server. For example, if you see the Jenkins website, Vectorcast already has plugins for creating a Jenkins job and running the Jenkins job and getting back the results into the Jenkins. So we have integration with Jenkins, and if you are not using that CI tool, if you are using any other CI tool, no problem. Our tool has 100% command line utility, so we can even provide you support even in that case. This is just a basic example. This is the same where we are having the continuous integration server, and the moment we check in the source code into the version control tool, the version control tool, the continuous integration server will be in turn polling the version control tool. The moment it sees the changes, it will trigger the build, after the build, the testing, and getting back the results. So in this way, Vectorcast will help you in your CI continuous integration endeavor. Next thing is that the previous example is where you have a single continuous integration server. If you want to have it parallelly, we also have solution for that. We have CI licenses where you can parallelize your testing, and you can even save time. So this particular screenshot that you are seeing here, where you trigger a job and the jobs are being distributed across multiple nodes, and the multiple nodes will be running those tests. And here, of course, we will be providing the licenses, but you should also have the compiler licenses in order to parallelize here. Okay. Okay. So next activity is a demo. In this demo, we will try to mimic this particular workflow. We have some source code. We will be committing that source code to the source code version control tool, and for the continuous integration, we took the Jenkins here. The Jenkins will be polling the continuous integration server, and it will trigger the build. So we want to show this as part of our demo. So my colleague Harish will be presenting the demo. Yeah, sure. You can raise your hand if you have any questions so that we can get to you. You can take the mic, yeah.
We are uploading the artifacts. Anything we need to follow, like file versions or file format, something like that we need to follow, or anything is fine?
That totally depends upon your ecosystem. Okay. So for example, if you are using whatever we are speaking here, what you made some changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have committed your code. Now this continuous integration server, for example, Jenkins, it has plugins for multiple version control tools. Okay. And you can trigger the polling mechanism for every minute, every hour, every day. You can actually schedule your build. So what it will do is that, for example, if you take this basic example, if you say that the continuous integration server should poll every 5 minutes. So it will be polling, and this version control tool, whatever the version control tool will have, it will have the mechanism to show the difference of code, what you have committed now and the previously committed code. That will in turn trigger the build, your source code build. And then after the build, the logical step is you might have spent some time in having the test cases, right? So the test cases need to be executed. And the pass-fail, what is the next step? It could be different. It could be like sending mails to the people who have committed the code that something is broken. The advantage here is that you are able to solve the bug then and there. You know that you made a change, you know what change you made, and then you are solving that problem. Now, how Vectorcast can help you? The Vectorcast can help you in running the test cases and getting back the results with the CBT technology, the change-based testing technology, where if you have thousands of test cases, if I make only one line source code change, there is no point in running all the test cases, right? We are wasting our resources. That's where the CBT technology will come into picture. Vectorcast will know what change, means which test cases got impacted by that particular source code change, and it will give you the incremental testing report as well. So that is where Vectorcast will help you. Apart from that, we also have the licensing mechanism that will aid you in taking the maximum benefits out of this CI/CD mechanism. Like I spoke about the command line CI/CD licensing mechanism, where you can parallelize your job. So next is the demo. There is another question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you raise your hand? Okay, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, I have a question. When you are talking of the tests that will be run after the build process, you are essentially referring to regression tests, right? Because the tests related to this feature wouldn't have been built by that time, especially in a mission critical kind of a system. So you are just talking of the tests, the regression tests that are impacted, right?
yes.
Or do you suggest TDD kind of a approach for these kind of systems where you can involve CBT into that?
See, test-driven development is where we will have the test cases. From the test cases, we'll write the software.
Yeah.
Right? Vectorcast even supports that.
Mm-hmm.
So to reiterate, that we never. It totally depends upon our customers. So if you want to take the TDD path, even in that case, we have the mechanism to have the test cases. Of course, the test cases will fail when you don't have any software. But once you start developing the software, it will make sense. Coming to the regression testing, yes, sir, you are spot on. This mechanism will help you to get maximum output of your regression testing and to leverage on the time spent on the development of these test cases. Okay, so there are other features in Vectorcast where the test cases are independent of your environments, Vectorcast environments, where if you change the source code, let us say you are only refactoring the source code, the test cases are still valid. You can import the test cases across multiple versions of your software. And 100% you have to come up with new test cases when you implement new feature. There is no second opinion on that.
But I see a challenge here that you are already integrating something new into your source code without that piece of functionality being tested. So how that is being...
It is not only, see, whenever we are modifying any source code, it is not only that we are implementing a newer feature, it could be that we came up with a better logic for the feature that is already available. So we may be refactoring our software. So what happens usually is that when we refactor our software, means as a embedded developer previously, even I was little hesitant to change my software because it is already working. If I implement a better logic in there, shorter code, will it impact my the main requirement? So that's where Vectorcast will help you. It will help you to test early, to test often. So this is the main fundamental thing here. So the moment you write something, you should be in a position to test it early, and you have to have the bandwidth to test it often. So that is where we have the Vectorcast providing the CBT technology, change-based testing technology, and also parallelizing. We are parallelly running. So that is where we help you. And
but what about a new feature? If it is a new feature,
we have to write new test cases, sir, based on the requirements.
So before it is integrated means once a source control server triggers the continuous integration.
Then only, see, if you have not modified your source code, let us say you have not modified your source code, and you have written new test cases. I am taking another example. Then also Vectorcast will help you run only those subset of test cases. It will not run all the test cases even in that case. So if you have developed a new feature, based on the requirements, you have to develop the test cases. Of course, we have the mechanism to automate the test case in the unit testing. We provide you the complete, the GUI automation where it is just point and click for you. But still, that even that clicking you have to do, the generation of that particular test case, you have to still do it. Newer test case you have to add, but you will get the leverage over the period of time because you are writing more test cases. So this will become an asset moving forward. So in VectorCast, you are not throwing away all the test cases. You can reuse the test cases.
Okay.
That is one of the advantage. But yes, you have to write new test cases for new features.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. He is there. We'll get back to you.
Sir, I have two questions. So, does VectorCast provide plugins to integrate with non-vector software tools? For example, Coverage Master from Gaio.
Okay, it depends upon your requirement. It is something we cannot answer here. Maybe you have to write to us and specify the exact reason, and maybe we will help you in that direction.
The Vector can, based on the request, if Vector can provide the plugins for integration of such tools, then also it's okay.
See, the tool is very flexible. As an engineer, I can tell you that the tool has many open ends. I mean, I'm sorry to use the open ends, but the tool has many ways to integrate with other tools. Okay, but whether we can integrate with your tool, it is totally driven by your requirement and our mutual, understanding of the requirement.
My second question is with respect to the continuous integration. Assuming that I have multiple test environments, but the source code has to be fetched from single repository. So using VectorCast, can I initiate, as part of continuous integration, through automation, can I initiate testing on multiple test environments parallelly?
100%. VectorCast supports base directory modeling as well. So you can have the same source code in the multiple environments, and you can still run the test cases parallelly, even in that.
Because in our organization, we use Hills environment for carrying out the system testing. There are multiple Hills environment. So when the code gets released, right, we initiate the testing. Currently, it's manual. So if VectorCast can be used to initiate the testing on all the Hills environment parallelly at once the code gets
See, we
checked.
have the mechanism, but you have to understand that the licensing also comes into picture. So when you want to do it parallelly, it means that you should have the compiler. So VectorCast is a software testing tool. So we don't provide any licenses for compilers or debuggers. So you have to plan that.
No. We have the specific compilers. For example, Kano or Vita Studio, we have specific compilers. It's only that, does VectorCast support initiating that starting of testing on multiple?
We have the mechanism to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And also you had a specific query, right? So just an input for you. On each table we have kept contact forms. So I would request anyone who has any specific query, you can just fill out the contact form so that one of our technical experts will get in touch with you so that we can discuss further on that.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Yeah. So you had some question.
Yeah. Sir, can we understand this VectorCast as a test case management tool where, we maintain the test case?
Test automation tool.
Okay.
You can see if you think of manual testing, you have so many challenges there. So all these challenges are addressed by this tool. And here, we have other presentations where you will have much more hands-on on how VectorCast works. But this is, like we said, we have declared one problem statement, and slowly we are getting into how to solve those problems. Okay. So one of the most happening thing in software development is continuous integration. And in continuous integration also, you can seamlessly use VectorCast. For example, you can be a new user or you can be an existing user of VectorCast, but you can seamlessly, if you change your testing, development and testing paradigm to agile methodology, we will support our customers seamlessly, and we have these things to offer. So that's what it is.
Okay, like let's say there are 1,000 test cases in a project, and let's say like we have 10 to 11 features, and you are just
1,000 test cases and
10 to 11 features.
10 to 11 features requirements, let us say.
Requirements,
okay.
yeah. So you are changing one line of code fix, maybe it might be a bug or something. So running all the test cases, it might take some time, right? Because that bug is related to only one specific requirement, but not all. So is there a, running the test cases only specific to that feature, or are we going to run all the test cases available?
Okay, since VectorCast is a software testing tool, so you make any software code change. We have a technology called as change-based testing, CBT. That's what I was referring to a couple of minutes earlier, change-based testing. So the change-based testing technology will know what are the test cases that got impacted by the source code change, and only those subset of test cases will be re-executed. So you will save time there, yes?
Okay.
100% we have that feature.
Okay. And one last question, like when you say parallel execution, can we consider you are using some microservices type or some?
It is all totally dependent on your requirement. So at Vector, we are very flexible.
Okay.
Okay, so we will adapt to your workflow. That's what I am saying.
Okay.
This is only one example. This is not the only example. We will adapt to your ecosystem. How you want Vector to work, VectorCast to work, we will adapt to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi.
We can discuss further regarding the specific use case. Regarding test case management, we have VTest tool. That is the test case management. We can discuss further your specific use case.
Hi.
Actually, I am using the Docker and container. So till now, I am able to execute like sequentially. So I am able to execute sequentially, not the parallel execution. So are you saying that all the containers you will launch, and at the end you will sum up all the result and submit to the Powerforce or Gate or whatever?
Okay, so Docker means, if you want us to
See, I am launching a single container, and there is project is created, and all tests are executing sequentially. So they are taking a lot of time. So as what I have seen, that as per that parallel execution, like you will launch all the containers and some of the result, or how it will be. I am confused
okay,
with that.
we have even something worked on that.
Okay.
Even for that, maybe we can talk to you offline.
Sure.
So even parallelize that. Test case execution can also be parallelized, even in that case.
Okay.
So we have licensing models even that support that as well.
Okay. And next one is that all the reports are generated. So those reports are keeping with the Jenkins or whatever the CI we are using, or you are able to submit to the Git or any configuration management tool?
Again, this is only not the only way. So
Okay.
we have Python APIs where you can capture the raw data from the test case executions, or all the different things, whatever you want. So, and you can use it in the next level. So let us say that after running the test cases, you want to use this data in some other different tool, your proprietary tool. So that's what I'm saying. We are 100% command line utilities are there. We have Python APIs that will capture different parameters that you may need. For example, you want to capture the test cases that were not at all executed since the previous build. So we can come up with a Python automation provided to you. When you run that Python script, it will list the test cases that were never executed. So like that, we can provide you different, it's all driven by your requirement. We will work on it and we will provide you the solution.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Since Vector mainly concentrates on the test strategies, in case of a deficiency of test cases, like I have a requirement, and when I have to check for the MCDC completeness, will it identify any of the deficiency of the test cases there?
Okay, MCDC by itself is a metric. Okay, and MCDC, like when I say metric, it is a mandate that you have to test it. Okay, and MCDC doesn't effectively say that there is no bug in the software. Okay, so VectorCast is aligned with MCDC kind of test case generation based on the Boolean expression, whatever you have in that particular condition. VectorCast is intelligent enough to give you the tables. It does the analysis and it will give you the tables, and it will give you the values that will actually force the control to go into that particular logic, so that you can get MCDC coverage. But as a testing tool, we don't provide any deficiencies in the MCDC, because MCDC by itself has deficiencies. It is just a metric, so stating that, you know, if you do, as per your stringency level, this has to be done. But by doing MCDC, is my 100%, my software has no bugs? Maybe based on your requirement, it may not have bug, but there could be some logical bug, but you may not need it. Based on your requirement, you may not need it to be tested. So that's what it is.
Yeah, I have one question on the VectorCast. Like, will it come with a qualification kit, or how it is? This whole environment, whatever you said for Devo 330, if we need to go
Sir,
for
we
it,
will
or
discuss
is it additional?
Because we are moving in a different direction now.
Okay.
Qualification kit and all, my colleague Harikishan will help you on that. We have consultancy services.
Okay.
We have that.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
Hi, I just want to know the variants, like you had mentioned VectorCast near the development. So does it cater unit testing, UI automation?
We have two flavors, madam. We will be discussing that in the later sessions.
Okay. Does it
have,
support desktop application automation as well?
not directly, but we can work out on it.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The CBT that you were talking about, do we need to feed the test cases to track our line of change? Do we need to manually send, maybe there are test cases, 10 test cases which are getting affected by this one line. Do we need to do this manually, or is it automatic in nature?
100%
completely?
automation.
Okay.
100% automation. In the, like, we have two flavors of VectorCast. One is the VectorCast CC++. One is VectorCast QA, and the VectorCast CC++ is our managed tool. It's a unit testing tool where the scope is at the function level.
Okay.
Okay, and for the other tool, it is scope is at the file level, because you are doing system testing there.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe
So
you will track the line coverage.
yeah,
also that
everything.
you'll track.
We cannot tell you how we do that, but you will have the change impact report and what test cases got impacted.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
We need to show the qualification, because how CBT is effective. Certification authorities look for that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, sir. We can provide you that information, but it depends upon what kind of stringency level you are following, and we have done the qualifications before also. I mean, after the CBT got introduced into product, we have done qualifications also. Unfortunately, I'm not the expert in that.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
Thanks.
we can come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will.
In VectorCast tool, first time we may write the 100 test cases, okay. Next time, we requirement changes only in the 2 test cases that we uploading into the management source file. So only the 2 test cases, is it possible to run in the continuous integration?
That's what it will do. If you make changes in the 2 test cases and you did not make any change in the source code, okay, only 2 test cases will be executed in the CBT. Yes. Yes. Your mic, can you say hello?
Hello.
When you try to integrate any requirement tool and try to remove some requirements, VectorCast can pop up a message saying that these requirements are no longer there, and the test cases that are linked to these requirements are getting impacted. So we will give you information. Actioning you have to do.
So it will fail, or it will be giving out the
That's what,
notification?
we will give you the information, whether you want to keep those test cases or whether you want to remove them. If the test cases are failing, whether you want to make them, make them to pass, action you have to take. Message we will provide you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Part of it now. Yeah. So the continuous integration, continuous deployment or development, that is CI/CD, and the continuous testing, CI/CD. That's what we having with VectorCast. We use Jenkins as a demonstration tool. Of course, we have an integration with other tools as well, like Bamboo or some other customized tools also. I have an example of a Jenkins, so we'll discuss more on that. So first, you have to have a Jenkins installed and any subversion, like if you're using with any source code management tool like Subversion or a GitHub or anything like that. So I have a SVN in my machine, so we'll discuss more on the SVN part. Yeah. So we have installed the Jenkins, and the SVN is in place, and we are committing our software into the SVN part. So how do we create a job? How do we make an execution, the test execution? Before that, we have to have a VectorCast managed environment ready. You have worked on your project. We have requirements, the test cases you wrote, thousands of test cases you wrote, and you want to make it a continuous execution. Yeah, so that's where we'll create a project outside, and we'll feed, or rather we create a job in the Jenkins, and we'll tell Jenkins where to run the test cases. Yeah, so this is the Jenkins home page. Yeah, so that's the managed Jenkins, where you have a VectorCast plugin. So that's where you just get the managed plugin. You just type in the VectorCast coverage. So that's where you will get the VectorCast plugin available. So I already have that plugin available here. So this is where the VectorCast plugin comes in. Once you click on that, you create a job. What type of job you would like to create? Would you like to have a single job or a pipeline job? I think this is one of the questions I had earlier. So I have created a single job for our demonstration. So these are the different jobs I have created. Yeah. So I have a Jenkins Vika single, and for the SVN, that's the project I have created. So you create a job, and you need to configure that first before you start executing your test cases outside. Okay. Yeah. So that's the environment I have created in my local machine. This is where my .pcm project runs. Yeah. So we are only working with the VectorCast manage license, enterprise license with Jenkins, and we are telling Jenkins where the subversion available. So I have it in this particular setup. We just provide the repository of the URL, and that's where all my source code is located. Once you're making any commits, it will be done in this particular path. Yeah. And we'll start triggering the job as and when there is a commit happens to the source code. So this is the way it works, right? The developer sits on some other location, and the tester is in a different location, and they commit their source code. And tester, on the other hand, so they will have their test cases ready. They would like to run it, so they'll just link it with that path, whatever I mentioned. And once the source code change happens, your test case will start executing your continuously as and when there is any change in the source code, it kicks off the job. Yeah. So that's a trigger button we have to click on to start the test execution. These are the plugins. The plugins has its VectorCast commands already. So these are the automatically created commands within the Jenkins job. So you don't have to write your own commands as such. So once it's done, this is for a Windows build commands I'm working with, and we are also having the Unix build commands. Yeah. And once you are done with that, you just need to save this. Once the saving is done, you go back to that the main page and you build it. So these are different options was what I was talking about. When you want to build the job now, you just simply click on this build button. The job will start right away. So now if you are depending on some commit to happen, so we'll wait for that trigger to happen outside, and then the job will kick off by itself. Now how I had done it, that was, so we have made some changes here, and we have checked in this particular path. That's where I was showing. And in the source code, I'll make some changes, and I'll make some changes here, and I'll commit that source code. There are two ways of committing that. I'm making use of the command line rather than the GUI part. Of course, you can right-click and commit that change here like that, SVN commit. This is where you provide your revision version. I think there was a question on what's the version I decide that. So there was, in this particular version, you can actually provide what version you would like to commit. So that's the message basically. So you can add that in the commit message. So I have taken the automation part of it, where I'm just using that commit.bat. That's the bash script I'm running in the background, where I'll commit that particular file with some message, and will trigger the job. So I'll just run this commit file now, and So that's the commit happened, and in the job it will start. Yeah, so that's how it starts off with the running the single job. Yeah, so we can this is what I'm doing it as a demonstration. Now you can imagine there is a developer makes changes, and you have your thousands of test cases running here, and you are waiting for the commit source code commit to happen. Yeah, so once the commit happens, your the test case will start running automatically. Yeah, so that's the this is a job running, and if you can get to know about your how the progress is going in the console. Yeah, that's how the progress is going with the environment. What's the environment? What is the what are the test cases it's creating? What are the reports it generated? And everything will be captured there, and you will get the success or a unstable result, depending on what status of your project is. Now how do I get the results, right? In build, we have in the 55th, that's the job I'm working on, and this is where it will get the complete the code coverage, and if you have all the reports, if you have any aggregate report, you can get to know more about how the code coverage looks like. And we also have something like a change-based testing, as my colleagues spoken about. If there is any change happening in your source code, and if it affects, say, 1 out of 100 test case, then it will execute that test case alone. So you don't have to spend too much time in executing those redundant 99 test cases, because it costs you a lot of time. Yeah. So to avoid that, there's a change-based testing. When you integrate with the Jenkins, it will execute 1 test case out of 100 test case and get you the latest result. So this is what's happening at the moment. I have total 38 test case in this particular environment, and out of which 1 test case affected and 37 are unaffected. Yeah. So this is on the total bench what I'm talking about. To be more precise on the Jenkins related things, I've made changes in this particular environment where one of the file has been changed and committed. So that's where the job triggered automatically, and it gets the results like that. So the rebuild status says the incremental build succeeded, and for the other environment, for example, it's not the only environment we are creating. We might have more than 1 environment within that particular project. So it will not disturb the other environments. It will only look for the environment which made the changes for. So it will execute only those test cases against those environments. So these are the different test cases executed, and these are the different metrics you will get out of that. And so this is the group, and these are the different environments what I have here, and total number of test cases, and what are the statement coverage, branch coverage, and MCDC. All the reports will be shown in the Jenkins job. Yeah. So that's about the Jenkins and its demonstration. So if you have any questions, we can take it. Yeah, there's one question.
I'll just give you.
Hi.
Hi.
If you had any statements or any other functions in the middle of the code, you changed only the value, isn't it, in the demo?
Yeah.
So if you change if you add any function, calling function, if you call some functions or add extra statements, like will it add the extra new test cases here?
It will not add the test case, like my colleague said. It will not add the test case, but of course you can make that change in the home environment. You can of course add the automation test case. It will only tell what part of the test case, what changes you made, and what are the test cases affected by the source code change. It might fail, it might pass. It all depends on how your code logic is. But it will not introduce new test cases for the change source code. You have to do it manually.
So we need to do manually.
Manually we need to do it. Yes.
I had one question. During this execution, right, the license of VectorCast, is it locked throughout the execution of the test, or only during the start and the end?
It will be it will lock for the execution time.
Entire execution?
Execution, yes.
Even on the target when it is executing?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you elaborate more on your questions? I want to know more about the license.
Basically, when it is executing in the target, VectorCast is actually not doing anything. So why should it? lock the license?
It will execute, it will flash that.
Flashing is something which debugger is doing, right?
Mhm. So you are
And
executing the
execution-
test cases?
Yeah, and debugger is doing, and the target is basically executing and probably populating the data out in
But
some
you are still
serial
looking
file
for
or
the data
some-
coming out of the target and display on the code coverage viewer. So that's still a job
So
is
is
needed.
it something which is dynamic? It doesn't happen dynamically, right? It happens post execution of the target, execution of the dot out, or.
Mhm.
So I was just curious to know whether it's complete cycle or it's only during the starting and ending.
I think we can.
I will explain you that.
Why I was curious, because you are locking for the entire duration of the execution, right?
Mhm.
So which is loss of precious time of license.
Okay, Srinivas, you have any comments?
Right. So VectorCast license will be something like when it needs the license, it will quickly, for example, you are saying that you want to execute it on the target. So there is our licensing works in that in a way that we will know that you are trying to run it on the target, and that particular license will be checked in. Okay, and there is one base license. So there is one base license, and on top of it, all the features, different features will have different licenses. So the base feature license will be always engaged, because you have you're opening that environment, and then you are running one test case. So the base license will always be there, but this the license that is specific to running on one particular target will be checked in and checked out continuously. So if you stop, it will be checked out, so that somebody else can use it. But the moment you open VectorCast, there will be one license which will be consumed. That's how it works.
Hi. When this
Yes.
This auto trigger of that build process, when there are new code commits, can we control different variables? Like not every, even in particular file is committed, but when baseline happens, are many other variables, maybe we can add that into like when to trigger this continuous integration. When we do baseline, not for every change of the code source.
Yeah, we can do that depending on how you are planned it. For my demonstration, I've just created a small example. I've just made some changes to the source code and just making it to trigger whenever the change happens. Of course, there are some ways to do it. I have not prepared for that demonstration.
But it can be customized.
Can be done, yeah.
So you can override CBT. Okay, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to use CBT. So let us say that you have made changes and you want to rerun all the test cases, even you can override that.
Hi,
Yes,
Harish.
yes.
So my question is, so we are talking about the unit testing here, right?
Yes.
So what about the system testing? So that I have to do it manually again, so select the test cases and everything. So what all should be executed?
No, the tool maybe you will be using was the older one, with the VectorCast cover. The VectorCast QA is the latest flavor of system testing, where the things can be done automatically. Yeah.
Okay.
So you just make some changes to the source code, your system test case will trigger. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's automatically can be done.
Okay, thank you.
It will be covered in
Yeah, just now I've asked about the CBT part.
Yes.
Right? So one thing is, like, for example, a particular test case runs in a specific way for a specific configuration. When I say configuration, it could be some if defines, or it could be some parameters which are controlling the test flow.
Yes.
Right. Now, when you're defining a particular line of change, is actually executing only one test case, and if I want to modify the behavior of the test case by modifying this configuration parameter or basically anything. So how will the VectorCast know that some other tests are also getting affected because the change of configuration has now started kicking in?
Okay, so internally it is an internal methodology how it tests with. So we have a X version of your software already in the local repository. In the environment folder, and once you're hash defining, you're adding or deleting it, it will be compared against and what changes you are making into the new version of the software, and it makes a calculation or analyze what are the test cases got affected by the change what you made. Any small change you are making, it's an affected test cases, right? So you're hash defining one macro or you're removing it. It doesn't matter. It just make a comparison with your older version of the software with a newer version. So that's how it analyzes and run those delta test cases. It will not spend time in executing all of those full test cases.
Okay. That means it's analyzing your entire database
Automatically
in
it
one
does
way,
that.
right? For example, let's compare it with some Linux. It's a pretty big, you have some GBs of code
Yes.
written, millions of lines of code.
Yes.
So one line of change for a configuration of a specific Linux distribution. So will it actually have to analyze the entire Linux distribution again and maintain some, and how much time does it take to do that actually?
We are talking about a small .c file or .cpp file.
Yeah.
That's where how here's the comparison is made. Are you saying there are millions of code in one .c file?
So yeah, maybe one .c file might affect some thousands of test cases based on the configuration that I mentioned.
Yes.
Like now, in order to get to that point where it understands, okay, now I am going to affect, this particular line is going to affect thousands of test
Yes.
cases instead of one test case.
Yes.
It has to analyze this entire database, right? Do you have any metrics to say how much time does it VectorCast take to come to that point where it analyzes and makes the changes?
It will not give you the time as such, how much time it takes. It just gives the data or rather the test cases, what are the different test cases affected, and you can get to know what are those test cases affected. Not exactly the time frame. Srinivas, do you have anything to
See, VectorCast maintains a flat file. So whatever the time you are saying is already consumed when you are building the environment. Okay, it has a flat file and it knows what are the variables, what are the functions, what are those signatures, what are the functions dependencies, everything it will maintain in a database management system. We have XML based DBMS. Okay, now let us say that there is a global variable and you made a change in the global variable, and this global variable is used across multiple C files. Then 100% more test cases need to be re-executed. But this analysis is done when you are building your environment itself. So your time means VectorCast maintains that database. That's how it knows that you made a change, and it does a diff, and it knows that which test cases are covering which lines of code. Based on that, it will know that these test cases got impacted.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, Harish.
Yeah.
I have two questions. The first question is like this unit testing will run on the simulation or on the actual target?
Okay, this is a different topic what we are discussing. To answer it shortly, yes, we can run the test cases both on the simulation method and on the target.
Okay. And second question, like we have the statement coverage, branch coverage and
Yes.
all, right? Like we have the multiple releases. In the first release, we will be go for 100% statement coverage, and second release will go for the 100% branch coverage. So do we have option to set up that, like if we are not covering 100% statement, the Jenkins will trigger red?
Jenkins will trigger the job. It all depends on how your test cases are designed, how you designed your managed project.
So our test case is not covering 100%. So is the tool will report red?
The tool will report if you are having the deficiency in the statement in first build. It will tell you that this is a percentage of coverage need to be done. It will not tell what is the branch coverage need to be done because you are not instrumented the environment for the branch coverage. Yeah, so we have to make that instrumentation for the second build, and automatically Jenkins will take care of the execution.
That can be done from the VectorCast.
Yes. Jenkins will just run your job. It will not make any changes to your instrumentation level or anything like that.
Okay.
Of course, you can do it with the commands what I shared. Will it demand some more time to analyze that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes. Yes.
Here, Harish.
Okay. Yes, Rashi.
Suppose there is some source code changes.
Yeah.
And will VectorCast provide me a report saying which and all the test case names that will be impacted?
Yeah. So it will not exactly give you that report as a report as such. So we can get to know what are those test cases changed in the full report. When you exactly take out the full report, it gets you the time frame when the test cases are executed. Suppose there are hundreds of test cases you are having in your environment, and out of which 5 test cases are being executed. The 95 test cases are redundant, they are not running. So it will run the remaining 5 test cases, and it will be a latest time frame what you get through, and you can get to know. This is what I'm talking about, the unit testing project. When you're having a system testing project, you will get to know what test cases have been affected with the report also. We can get to know from the report.
Something like the impact analysis.
Impact analysis report, yeah. That can be done. in the system testing tool.
Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, here.
Yes.
So, we already use VectorCast.
Yes.
So, I want to know, like, is there any minimum version where it supports this plugins and stuff?
What version?
Minimum version of VectorCast to have a support of Jenkins.
We are having a latest version in the
2016.
From 2016.
16 or later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
but the
CPT
latest, if you want to use this latest plugins, we always suggest you to upgrade to the latest version. Why? Because we have made lot of changes on how we handle the data. I mean the test case execution data from 2016 till now. So if you are using the plugins, we always suggest you to go with the latest version, at least 21, at least.
And the CBT comes to picture only if you use it along with the Jenkins plugin?
No.
Not necessarily.
No. CBT is VectorCast feature. This is only one of the ways you can use VectorCast. CBT, you can use it without Jenkins also.
Yeah.
And if you want to run it with multi-nodes, we can do it without Jenkins as well.
That totally depends on you. You want to create multiple scripts and you want to run it parallelly on multiple things. You have to show, that's what I'm saying. We are very flexible. You show us your workflow, we will try to see how we can adapt to your workflow.
And whatever setup you have shown to just create a job and
Yes.
the sample scripts, is that all by default available if you install the plugin, or that's your script you wrote it?
The commands, what I was showing here is...
it's all automatic.
It'll all be there automatically.
Because you have shown it pretty simple. You didn't show any configuration of where is your environment setup, what is your project, all that, right? So everything is taken.
Okay, so
by default?
it's all there in the configuration. That's where okay, maybe we'll create a sample one so that we'll have a more understanding of how the things work. I'll create a single job, and you just need to provide the path where you are having the .vcm project. Yeah?
VectorCast manage project.
VectorCast manage project. So we are just distinguishing VectorCast manage only. It's not works with the unit test environment. Anyway, it's a VectorCast manage project path you need to provide, including the .vcm. Yeah, and you just provide these details if necessary. The retract the license
Why don't you
file.
browse to that VCM file here? That VCM file only you just browse it, and maybe they can see that it is automatically created.
So is this all in assumption that it's all going to be on the local system? Because your Jenkins is pointing to your local itself?
Yes, this is a simple example, but it is just a bare minimum. You can have multi-node, you can have server VectorCast running on one system, and you are committing source code server and VectorCast triggering the test cases. All those migrated mode also is supported. And you want to have the local copy, what we are showing, that is also supported. So we want to make it as simple as possible because we want to get through the feature is available to the audience. It is all there. We can discuss it one-on-one if you raise a support case.
So this is where the Windows command or the Unix command, if you are working with, right? So it's currently empty, so you can have your own commands there. By default, VectorCast and Jenkins, of course, they will have the set of the ClaCast command to execute automatically. If you, on top of that, if you would like to customize your own script, you can do that.
Harish,
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
As you were saying, there are 100 test cases, and under CBT, we have only 5 test cases which has been modified. But my requirement would have impacted other test cases also, right? Will that be identified, or it will just execute only if those 5 test cases?
Okay, let's understand. So there is a requirement change, and
Yes.
I have to have the source code change according to that.
Good.
Yeah. If the source code change happens, VectorCast will now know what are the test cases it's affecting those source code change you made. Yeah, it might affect 5 test case or 50 test case. It depending on what requirements changed or what are the test case it's affecting. All VectorCast is looking at is the source code change. Yeah. So when there is a source code change happens, accordingly you have to have when there is a requirement change happen, you need to have the source code change, right? So according to that, it will calculate and execute those remaining test cases. It's not that I've changed the requirement and there is no source code change. That's not going to happen, is it?
My question was, in case if the tester fails to identify which are the test cases which can get impacted. And I say that only this requirement, I have given only those 5 test cases modified. So under CBT, it tests only those 5 test cases, right?
It will only run. It will only execute those 5 test cases affected by the source code change, not with the requirement change.
Okay.
Requirement change, that's not there. So we are looking at the source code change here.
Oh,
Yeah.
So with respect to unit testing, does Vectorcast automatically generate the test cases based on the source code?
Yes, again, it's off the topic. To answer your to the question, yes, we can do it with the automation test case. We have something called a basis part test case, MCDC test case, partition test case. We can do it automatically.
Because in one of the tools what we use currently, right, it generates we feed the code and it automatically generates the cases for C0, C1 and MCDC coverage.
Yes.
So does Vectorcast have that feature?
We have a sophisticated versions of these features now. We are in 2022 SP7. All the source code will be analyzed by the tool, and it understands what are the different path it's going through, and it inserts accordingly those many number of test cases. Be it is a basis part test case for the statement coverage, and if it is a MCDC, if you are having a safety critical application, if you're working with MCDC as the mandatory instrumentation level requirement, then we can insert the MCDC test case automatically.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yeah.
My second question is,
Yes.
basically what I'm not able to completely understand is,
Yes.
see, I have an test environment and I have Jenkins.
Yes.
So with Jenkins available, right? Why? Because I feel that all my testing can be enabled using Jenkins. So why in addition Vectorcast is required? I'm not able to understand that. What additional thing that Vectorcast offers over Jenkins?
Jenkins is not a testing tool. It is a triggering, just job triggering tool. That's what I'm just.
Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
It's a triggering tool, but along with Jenkins, it requires some amount of scripting to enable my testing, continuous integration testing.
Yeah.
So which we generally do it in our current environment. So I'm not able to understand what in addition to this, what Vectorcast offers to me.
Vectorcast you have.
It is offering you automation. It is giving you the change impact report as part of Jenkins.
Yeah. That's the only thing I can see now. That is change-based testing, whatever we discussed.
Even the reports, we have not shown you that. Some of the reports and over the period of time, how your coverage is, faring, the profile of your coverage, all those things will be shown as part of your build, okay, when you are using Vectorcast plugins, okay. Now, let us say that you don't want to use Vectorcast plugins, but still want to use Jenkins. Then we have command line utilities. We can provide that also, where you can just run that, and you will just see. Then also CBT will work. But this reporting, whatever he is showing, that particular report as part of your Jenkins build, that may not be there.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
So I have a question regarding his first question, continuation of that. Like you're telling Vectorcast will create the automatic test cases based on the source code. Like, is it based on source code or in the design? Because we are following the process like ISO and IEC, like where the test spec has to be done based on the design input. So that can be done via design.
So the prime input is the source code, as we mentioned. This is the first requirement for the any test tool, Vectorcast for that matter. We take the source code as an input and we build an environment that we build the Vectorcast harness out of that, and then Vectorcast will analyze what are the distinct paths it's going through and understand how many test cases I need to insert, and insert those many number of test cases automatically. It's all depending on the source code, not with the design.
Not with the design. Okay.
We can discuss more on your questions to get more elaborated input from you.
Okay.
Hello, hi Harish.
Yes, yes.
Just I would like to understand about the traceability matrix.
Yeah.
If we execute this statement branch coverage, and additionally we have some requirement based test cases.
Yes.
And we link the requirement for those test cases, it's automatically uploaded with chunking to the QM, or we need to do the manually.
You are saying the tracing of the requirements?
Yeah,
the test
so
case?
if I executed and I have the result in the test report as a pass or fail, and I need to feed back to the QM. to make the traceability with requirement.
Okay.
So Jenkins.
That can be done automatically when you're using the tool. Yeah. When outside of the Jenkins, I'm saying, when you're having a requirement traceability. I'll take an example as doors. That's a standardly used one. So we are collecting all the requirements from the doors module and implementing those requirements and mapping a couple of test requirements to those test cases. Once the test case pass-fail result, we can export the result back to the doors module. That can be done automatically.
So with the vector cast or the
with vector cast.
So this server will not support, because why I need to go again with the vector cast? So why this server will not able to do these tasks?
We'll catch up on this one. We'll get more information. Because there is one thing missing, that why test tool is needed when there is Jenkins. That's the standard question I'm getting. We have to have a test tool to make these things happen. We have to have a test cases written on some platform to execute them. That's the standard answer, but anyway, we'll discuss more on your questions. There's one question here.
Are you going to explain about VectorCast QA as well in for our coming session?
We have it in the next coming sessions.
Dedicated session on that. Any other questions? Okay, this one at the end.
Harish, VectorCast is going to generate automatic test cases, right?
Yes.
So what about the stub parts? It will take care of the stubs for the unit testing?
So we are discussing about code coverage. Yeah. So it will go through the distinct part it's going through and what are the different test cases it has to cover. So that's where the automatic test cases will come through. It will not insert those inputs as a stub. It will automatically stub them, but it will not feed any inputs to those stubs as such. So it's users' job to take care of adding those inputs or outputs from the stub section. But the motive is to get the source code coverage with the automation part of it. So it will insert the inputs. What are the necessary inputs to cover that piece of code?
And second question, Harish, in VectorCast Manage, I observed, for example, there is file.c.
Yeah.
There is some certain point for our testing purpose, we need to modify that file. Some other requirements with the file.c only, some test cases has been ran. And in that file, some other requirements, we need to modify that file to perform our testing due to some certain limit.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we have the VectorCast Manage report, it creates as the _1 and _2 reports. Is there VectorCast will combine those reports as a future and generate as a combined report for the particular file?
Yes, we'll discuss more on that, Vinod. I think in the VectorCast Manage, it will combine and give you the test result for both file 1 and file 2. Yeah, and no, Vinod, we'll discuss more on that. We'll discuss more. Any questions?
Okay, there's one at the end. Ravi is getting the mic to you.
Thank you. Hi, Harish.
Hi, Abhishek.
I have two questions. One is specifically regarding Jenkins, and second one about the overall licensing aspect. So what I was following that you have, when you install this VectorCast plugin, you get a dedicated set of jobs to be made available, and user can create his jobs, Jenkins job from that.
Yes.
But does, unlikewise other Jenkins plugins which can be integrated in existing jobs for the additional functionality, these jobs, the VectorCast jobs are from start to end, not letting control given to any other intermediate activity.
Correct.
Okay. So does Jenkins plugin of VectorCast can be integrated in existing Jenkins pipelines jobs or the simple jobs, or user always need to use the dedicated jobs provided by the VectorCast?
Not the dedicated jobs. Can you please elaborate? So we can create a single job, and we provide the path of your managed project. That's
no,
all.
correct. So if you can click on this dashboard. So let me reiterate.
Yeah.
the different kind of jobs provided by Vectorcast plugin is a
I got your question. I'll answer.
Yes.
The Jenkins plugin is not provided by, it's created by Vector team, but it is available in Jenkins website itself. You can download it from Jenkins Marketplace, where you normally download anything like Blue Ocean or anything. Just like that, you can download Vectorcast and you can install it. So it is maintained by Vector team, but it is available in Jenkins Marketplace.
No, that's absolutely, I understand, because any plugin which is to be installed in the Jenkins, it should be made available in the Jenkins plugin marketplace. But my question is, if I click on this Vectorcast, I can select this one of the three options, and I can only create my jobs with a guided way what these jobs are allowing me.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
But we also have a default flow. For example, if I have existing jobs, regression jobs are available, I want to integrate the Vectorcast plugins configurability there. Is it allowed?
Yeah, I think we'll take it as a notes, and I'll definitely check on this.
Okay.
Check. Yeah.
The second question is about the licensing. So maybe do we have some session or a part of the session we discuss about the licensing aspect of the Vectorcast?
That we could take offline, because we also have some time for the demo areas and all. So during that time, perhaps we can discuss it in detail.
Okay.
But we don't have a dedicated session, considering there are
So
other
I will just raise my question. Just
Sure, absolutely.
What I came to know that from my limited knowledge with Vectorcast so far, that you have every instance of the Vectorcast tool or the CliCast way, it's consuming one license. Okay, so if you are creating parallelly multiple instances on the same PC to run your managed projects, you are consuming more than one license at any given point of time.
If you open multiple instances of Vectorcast, yes, that's right.
Right.
It will have 5 different nodes open, Vectorcast instances. 5 licenses are captured.
Perfect. So this, when somebody is using in the manual way by opening the tool, yes. Is there any benefit we see using the plugins that if 5 people are triggering, because commits will happen anytime. Yeah. So what you shown as a one job, one trigger, one commit, it can be committed by many people parallelly, so that you'll see a lot of jobs. And today we executed only one job. This means one license of this PC is consumed. What if 5 jobs are coming immediately, concurrently? Are they going to consume 5 licenses, or?
This is something we need to know more about, Abhishek. I think we'll get offline.
Okay. We have that capability. We call it as CI licensing.
Okay.
So if you want to trigger more than one, so we will discuss with you, and we will provide you a CI license at a time. How many instances, maximum instances you want to trigger?
Okay.
And based on that, we will work out the license.
Okay.
So again, here also it is customer driven. So we will adapt to your workflow again.
And the last question again about, I know that licensing model of Vectorcast also have the main feature and some add-on features, so that you can have licenses for 2 add-on feature or 4 add-on features, okay? I don't see any configurability option in the job to select which kind of license I'm looking for. It's completely based on the PC on which is going to get executed.
That's where is the VCM file.
Okay.
And within the VCM file,
Okay.
you have environments which will have the settings, what licenses need to be used. So here, the Jenkins will trigger the build. And after that, Vectorcast VCM will take over.
Okay.
And it will individually run on different environments. And these environments may be using different features. Some may have statements, some may have statement plus MCDC, like that.
Okay.
So that's where that will come into picture. That licensing will come into picture.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
There's one more question.
Okay, so we'll take the last question and then we'll break. You can use this.
I am integrating to this Vectorcast tool. Okay. So after that, each and every level, low-level design, at the state I am obtaining the result. So in your demonstration, you shown what test cases affected, so unaffected like that. Whether all the test case IDs and all requirement IDs can able to put it there. So that means I want entire V model, so that traceability is possible. I am
So
showing
all the
during report.
requirements tab in the
Yeah.
report, where what are the requirements you are mapping to those test cases
Yeah.
will be listed down there. Yeah, so you can get to know what are the requirements you are being tested.
Okay.
So that
So
option is there.
Is there? Is it?
Yes.
So if you integrate and you bring it in report.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so